Hello everyone, welcome back to the Django tutorial series. So today we're going to be discussing a bit more about the views and kind of furnishing everything to get ready for styling, as well as adding in a new model in order to make it so that we have completed statuses on our to-do list. And let's not waste any more time. It's time to continue our Django tutorial. Okay, so let's go back to the discussion. So last time, or at least in the previous part, we created the update view with update to do, delete view, as well as the detail view. So all of these were added on to our to-do list application. And we created the templates for each of these as well, like to do update, to do delete, and to do detail. So my current order of priorities now would be to fix up these templates because I think they could be a bit more simplified, as well as add in two more things to the current to-do model, such as a completed status where if you've completed a to-do, you could mark it as completed, as well as adding a description to talk about what the task is specifically about. So in order to do that, let's go back to our terminal here and make sure that we have the virtual environment turned on. So let's use this command, Vend scripts activate, and that should be good. We now see the Vend here on the side. We have it enabled. And let's go to the models like so. So here are what we have so far in the model. We have the task name, task start, and task end, and these are the current contents. So for now, I want to create two new things, which are going to be the completed status and a description. And for a status, it's most likely going to either be true or false. So let's start with that. We'll say completed if the task is completed, and we'll say models.boolean field. Okay, so this Boolean field will take in a true or false value. But there's one caveat that we need to think about, and that is we currently have fields inside of our Django instance. We have a database that has some fields inside. So right now, luckily, we're using test information, but if we're going to put fields like this in a production database, it's best to put in either default, like a default for this would either be false or true, or you could add in a null or a blank statement, so it would make sure that this field is optional, so you don't break anything in the database. But for now, since this is a to-do, most likely it won't be completed when you put it in the to-do list. So we'll keep the default as false for them. Next is the description. So this description, we need to think about how it's going to be appearing in our form. And what I thought of to use for this would be a text field. So we could use a little text area to put some text in this. And like I said a while ago, since we're going to be adding this field onto everything that's currently in the database so far, using null and blank true, over here, we'll make sure that it will add in nicely without giving us any errors. So its description is entirely optional for now. We could leave it blank currently. And yeah, that should be good for now. Okay, so now we have our to-do class done, and we are going to bring back the cycle of Django migration. So we're going to say py manage.py make migrations in order to save in these new fields we added in. So we added in a field called completed, added in a field called description to the to-do model, like so. So that's good. And we need to make sure they are activated and turned on. So this is just for saving those fields into our database to make sure we could come back to it. But we need to activate them as well. So let's migrate like so. And we've added in the completed and description successfully. So now we are going to put this into the current templates. And while we're at it, let's try and fix up what's happening in these templates as well, shall we? Okay, let's go over each of these. Firstly, we have our base.html. This base is currently, this should be all right, but later on, maybe I want to add in some styling, and I want to add in a little nav bar as well, so we have a better way to link back to the home and to the create panel. So let's do that. So in this body, I'm going to create a little section for the header, which has the nav and an unordered list. So there's going to be a list of links, and they're going to be inside here. So I'm going to make an li here with a class of home. So this is going to bring us back to home later on. And for this link, I just want to link back to, make an a tag with an href of / to lead us back to home. And this will be our to-do list. So when I click on the word to-do list, I'll be sent back to the home page. Okay, let's make another list item in here, and we'll say an a tag And then this will lead us to the create route. So this create route will bring us to the create form where we can make a new to-do. So let's say create to do. Okay, that's looking good so far. And the next thing I want to do is, after the header, I want to fix the current classes that we have in here. So firstly, let's make a div here with a class of center. And inside that, we're going to say container. So I'm just using the center over here to put the container of the to-do list in the center of the screen. So I'm going to add styling to that later on, but for now, just layouting it will be good enough. Okay. And let's bring this h1 tag into the container as well as the content, like so. Okay. And one last thing to do is to add in a class to this header so I could center it later on. Okay, that's actually going to do it for the base.html. We added in about what we could add, and we're going to come back to this later on once we add in some styling and even some icons. So we'll see what we could do with that later on. Okay, the next thing we're going to go to is the to-do list. So the to-do list, let's go to that real quick over here. And in the to-do list, we're going to add in a new kind of filter. So every time we loop through the object list, it takes each of them and makes a little list item per object that is inside of our to-do model. So now we need to make sure that certain list items here have a filter of completed. So we're going to show a different graphic if they are complete. Okay, so let's do that real quick. So in here, this is going to lead to an a tag that when we click on will lead us to the details of a certain task. So what we're going to do here is actually first make this a tag clickable on the whole list item, because right now it just targets the certain name that's inside of the list item, not the whole row itself. So after we do that, we're going to add in some new classes into this list item. We're going to say for this, it will have a list item class of to do item, like so. And then in here, you could actually make some conditional class condition. So in here, I'm going to put in another set of curly braces along with percentage signs. And in here, I'll say if to do not completed, basically it'll check if the object has a completed equal to true. We're going to add in a class called completed, and then end that in. That is right there. So if it's not completed, it will just have a class of to do item. But if it is completed, we'll add in this completed class right here. So that should be good. And let's just make it a bit neater over here. There you go. Yep, that's looking a lot better. So underneath here, it says no articles yet. That's fine. We can leave that for now. And for this created to do, we could just close that since our navbar already does that work for us. Okay, that is looking like a better usage for the to-do list, and our styling later on will make this look a lot better. Okay, now let's go to the to-do create and to-do update, because these two, I want to make it so that both are going to be consolidated into one template called to-do form. So let's try and create that template. Actually, we'll create a new template called to-do form.html, because you can see pretty much create and update are almost the same thing. So let's try that. If we go to to-do form right here, let's try and add some new things. In here, let's extend once again from the base.html, because we want all of that in the base to appear in this page as well. We'll say it will have a block header, and we'll say in here another conditional if object. So we're saying if we're currently on an object, then we'll say the header is going to be the object.task name. So we're going to say if we're currently on an update view, we want to show the task name that task currently. So that is what that's for. And then if not, we'll say else. It will just say for the header. Oh, that is not an HTML tag. That's just a plain text of form. There you go. And then that should do it for this header. We'll say end it to close that it and end block for this header as well. Okay, so that is for header. Next is we'll create a section for the content. And this content, you must already know from the previous episodes, this will contain a certain kind of form, since it is a to-do form. So in here, we're going to create a form with the method of post. We'll just remove this action like so, and then hit on enter. So in here, the first thing that we need to do is say if there is a CSRF token. So just make sure that the current transaction or sending up the form, make sure that it is from a legitimate source. Okay, so review outside, let's go and list out all the form fields. But for this, we actually may run into a little problem, because when we're going to create a certain to-do, at least for me, I don't want to show the completed in the page, because when I do form dot as paragraph, it's going to show all of the fields that are in this model, and it will include the completed as well. But we're operating under the assumption that when we're creating a to-do, it is not yet done. It is not yet completed, since we're listing as a to-do. So what we're going to do here is actually list out these fields. What we're going to do here is actually list out the fields individually. So we'll say form.task name as well as the rest of the fields. So I'm going to type them out in order, such as the description, the form task start, and the task end. Okay, so now this brings us to the completed input. So for this, I'm going to try and make it a bit separated from the rest. So I'm going to make a little conditional here. We'll say if there's an object, meaning if we're currently on update view, and then I'll end the if right there. So we're going to have some content in here that will say div of a class completed input. So we're going to add some styling to this later on to make it a bit more separated from the rest of the form. So we'll have a label in here for this. And then this will be for ID completed. We'll see that later on. And then we'll have a form of completed in here. So we're saying if there's an object, then we could set if it's completed or not. But if we're on a create view, meaning if we're creating a new to-do, most likely it's not yet completed. So we're going to remove that from the form. And that should do it for this. So we call this one conditional rendering. Okay, and let's add a space to that, of course. And lastly, we can't forget the input of submit with a save value. And we'll also add a class to this, which is going to be the to-do save button. So we're going to add a little save later on. Okay, that's going to be it for this to-do form. And what we're going to do for this is actually go back to our view and change both the update and the create templates to be the to-do form. So let's do that real quick. To-do form for both of these. There you go. Okay, that's looking pretty good so far. And you can notice that we could recycle these template names. They don't have to be unique. So this saves us a bit more space. And now we could delete this create right here and delete this update as well, since both are going to be doing about the same thing. Which now brings us to this. There you go. That looks a lot better. So now let's go to the next one, which is going to be the detail view. So let's go back to our detail view and see what we could change. So right now it's currently very rudimentary. It's really not much going on in this. So let's try and fix it up. So in here, we're going to make sure that the block title is the object.task name to make sure that we're on the right tab. And then we'll end that block right there. That looks pretty good. Block header also looks good. So I think the only thing we need to change now is the content. So let's do that real quick. So for the content, we're going to put all of these into a certain div. So let's put in a div with a class of details. So let's do that. And now we're going to have two classes. Not two classes, two divs, because I want to make it so that we have the details on the left and a little update and delete button on the right. So we're going to have a little column layout like so. So we're making a div of class info for the first one, another div of class links for the next one. Okay, that's good so far. Next, let's make an H1 with an object, task name. There you go. So we'll list that out. Next is we'll have a paragraph with a class of description. Sorry, there you go. That looks a lot better. This will be the object description listed out. Next is we'll have a paragraph with the object start and the object's end. So these are the task start and task due date. So let's put that as well. There you go. And we'll also have at the end of it all a little status for us to see if it is completed or not. You could change this completed to be something else if you have another idea to signify that a certain task is completed, but for now, I'll keep it like this. And next, we have our links. So our links are going to be a bit more stylized. But for now, let's just put them all into here. Okay, so now we have our buttons over here. And then the only thing that I really add to this is so that we don't get as much errors in our HTML when we view it. We'll just add in a little type here to make sure that these are buttons of type button, so it doesn't mistake it as anything else. It's just a plain button. And for this, we'll add a class that says to do update button. And we'll do the same thing for the delete as well. Instead, it will be to do delete button. There you go. And that about does it for this to do detail.html. That looks pretty good. Okay, now let's go to the to do delete and see what we could add to this. So right now we have the block title, block header, and block content. So currently it's create to do. Let's try and fix that. We'll make it a delete to do instead. There you go. We now have delete to do's for both of the blocks right here. We'll just add a little spacing to make it look a little cleaner. And then let's just add in a bit of styling, or at least not a bit of styling, a bit of classes and a bit of organization to this delete template. So I'm going to add a little class here and call it delete text. I'm going to add some styling to that later on. And then that should do it for the paragraph. Next is we're going to create a little section here. We'll make a div with a class of row, and inside of that, there are going to be 2 columns. So the sense of this is we're going to put the button and the confirm button over here, the cancel and the confirm, in 2 separate columns. So I'm going to put that here, over here, in the first one, the first column, and the input of type submit will go in this one, like so. There you go. That looks a lot better, and that looks about ready for our styling later in the future. So that's actually going to be the last template that we're going to mess around with. So let's actually run the server and see what we have so far. Okay, here we go. This is what we currently have. Currently, we have a little nav here that shows the to-do list and the create to-do. Let's try and zoom it in a bit more, so maybe it's a little small. Okay, so let's go here to do list, and this brings us back to home. Right now, if we go here, this just the number 1 goes to the of all the models. Let's go to create to do, and we see our little form here that we can fill out. So maybe I want to create a task number 20, and then this is task number 20. We'll add in a little date, so maybe March 5th, and then we'll go to February 22nd. We'll save that. And now we have a task of 20. There you go. So now we see a bit of problem here. Header in the detail right here. And we're just going to remove this header later on, because I don't want this task name to be centered in the future. So for now, we'll keep it. We'll keep the header as this H1 instead. Okay, that'll do. Let's try and refresh it. And that looks a lot better. This task 20, we have a start date and their due date. And the status is currently false or not yet completed. So we'll update this. Maybe you want to make it task number 5 instead. And I'll say this is completed. This is the completed checkbox actually. And we'll save it. And there you go. Status is true. And we could verify that it has been completed. Then we have the description as well. And our to-do list. You could see that the others also have these fields as well that we could fill out later on. Okay. So hopefully that's been good so far. We were able to add in new fields to the model. And we are also able to fix our templates to look a bit cleaner and applying a bit more of the base template and HTML templating strategies. So in the next video, we're going to talk about how we're going to style these. So look forward to that episode in the future, and we'll see you in the next video.